Hi again, and welcome to my show. Just wanted to make some comments about something I've been thinking about quite seriously, I guess. Today, Saturday, and probably for some time now, is really about how the Liberal Party is faring in Australia, and this may not concern many people if anybody's watching this from overseas. But they're effed. They really are. Now, there was a by-election this week. Last year there was a federal election in which, about 10 months ago, in which the Labor Party won quite resoundingly with the help of the Greens and the Tills people. And the Labor Party have been going from strength to strength since then, primarily because they've been active, they've been passing legislation, they've been caring for our communities, they've been reinvesting in our country. There's some things that I don't necessarily agree with. For example, the amount of money being spent on defence and buying boats that sink. But they have been working hard. There's no disputing that. And look, I don't mind admitting this, even though I kind of feel a wee bit guilty about it, but I also watch Question Time. And so I'm up to date on the shenanigans that happens within our parliamentary system and the fact that they all act like children and that we pay them big dollars to do so. It's embarrassing, but nevertheless, that's the way our parliamentary system is. They scream, they yell, they shout at each other. They do everything except call each other names, but they come very close from time to time. And occasionally, like naughty little children, they are asked to leave by the teacher. They are. And it's disgusting, but that's the way they are. But that's the state of Australian politics as it has been for over a century now. But what's happening with regard to the Liberal Party is embarrassing to them. They lost heavily in the last federal election, and then there was an election in one of the states, a by-election for one of the seats, and this seat has been held since 1996 or something by the Liberal Party. It was seen as what we would call a blue seat, and it has switched to Labor, primarily because Liberals are on the nose. Now, they have a bald-headed bloke who, and I'm not criticising him because he's bald. I do relate to and am very sympathetic to people who are bald. Uncomfortable, went out in the sun a lot, must wear a hat. But that's about as far as it goes. This guy, though, has very little charisma. He is not liked. In fact, I think Albanese, our Prime Minister, now has 58% of the popular vote, and he has something like 26%. So the man's on the nose. But the real question here is, what can the Liberal Party do about it? And when I said that, I just realised I sounded like Andrew Bolt, which is a bit scary. But nevertheless, what can the Liberal Party do about their particular demise? Now, the problem is that the Liberal Party have moved further and further to the right and certainly have disengaged with those who are more likely to vote for them now than before, and that is the younger voter. So, what is it, Gen X? So these people are looking for progressive policies. They want to see better climate. They want to make sure that because they have young families that childcare is an issue, and they want to make sure that their children are looked after. They want rental houses. They want to be able to live what was once considered the Australian dream, to own your own house, to have your picket fence and your 2.5 kids. But they haven't been able to, the Liberal Party haven't been able to formulate policies that necessarily meet with any of that. In fact, it's hard to define. If someone asks you, what is a Liberal Party policy around any particular issue, it's hard to know what it is. And the primary reason for that is that they keep denying their party or their members of their party the right to vote on any legislation that's passed before the Parliament. So they're known as the party of where they vote nothing for everything. So they're the nil party. And as a result of that, they've developed this reputation whereby they're not putting anything forward, they're not negotiating any form of change in our community. So where do they go? Where do they go from this party where they vote for nothing, represent nothing, and represent the old stalwarts of the Liberal Party, the older, well-worn out old hacks? And how do they grapple with the notion that they are no longer representing those people that matter, namely the population, particularly young people who are seeking some sort of security? They have nowhere to go because that ground has been taken up by the Labor Party, the Greens and the Teals. So how do they get it back? I have a suggestion. I suggest that the Liberal Party find a way to bury their old conservative views around small government, about conservative issues such as welfare and the fact that there are people on welfare and that those people are, as the Liberal Party used to call them, bludgers, that they bury those old ideas and they start looking for new ones, exciting ideas that motivate the people, that might make them appear to be more like the left, but in so doing can develop policies that may have a tinge of difference from those policies that are expressed by the left of Australian politics. Now, by doing that, what they would do is they might force the left of politics, Labor and the Greens and others, to go even further left, which might make them start to look too extreme, and they might decide that there is a space somewhere in that middle area, there might be a space for the Liberal Party. Now, the reason why I'm suggesting that to Peter is because Peter would probably be listening to this, watching this video and thinking, Tony, you're pretty smart, and that I think that you should be on our side. I'm not, but he's probably thinking just that. And what I'm suggesting, though, Peter, is that you find a way to find a position that is no longer seen as right-wing, but is moving further and further to the middle so that you can encapsulate that middle ground. Because if you don't, you are just going to become a redundant figure that sits and languishes in the back seat of Parliament House doing absolutely nothing but looking at your phone, wondering what people are saying about you on Twitter. So Peter Dutton probably needs to find a way to do that. And the other thing is that the other dilemma they have is that they can't find anyone to replace him. Susan Lee is probably the most likely person to be able to replace him, but I was going to say something nasty about her, but I won't. But she's really not cut from any reasonable cloth. That she lacks the ability to be able to be reasonable, sensible. Oh God, she lacks the ability just to be likeable, actually. And she's a bully. So she's unlikely to get that position, and which actually indicates to us that there's nobody else within the Liberal Party who could rise to the occasion. The interesting thing is that within the Labor Party, though, there sits a front bench full of talent that could, if something happened to Albanese, people get sick of him over time, whatever it is, that there'd be a group of people that could swing in and put their hands up to be leader of the Labor Party and probably be very successful. So where are they failing? Maybe they're failing also at trying to find appropriate candidates. Candidates who are passionate, who are creative, who can think outside the box, who can develop policies that are valuable. And one other thing too, finally, that they do need to do is they need to decide that some of the legislation that is passed has value. Now, it doesn't mean they can't amend it, because I'm sure they attempt to do that. But if their amendments fail, that doesn't mean that they should still vote for the legislation, but advertise the fact that they attempted to amend it. So, but at the moment, they're just rejecting all legislation, infrastructure bills, the whole bit. They're just refusing an increase in energy caps, a whole business they're refusing to vote for. So they need to change their plan, and their plan needs to be implemented quickly, or otherwise they're going to be relegated to the dung heap and be of no value whatsoever on this in our political scene. And that's sad, because the reality is, like them or not, we do need a strong opposition party to confront the other side of politics. Now, that might mean that there might be a space, a small space, for some other party, such as the Greens or somebody else, to start to take over. Well, probably not the Greens, they're too far left, but some other party to come in and take that space. Hopefully it won't be One Nation. That's too far right. So it needs to be someone between the Liberals and One Nation who can actually take over that spot. Perhaps it might be the Teals. Don't know, because they're not actually a political party, even though they're funded by one particular dude. So let's see what happens. It's an interesting time in Australian politics. Thank God we haven't moved to the right as they have in the United States, and thank God we haven't indicted a Prime Minister. But who knows? That might happen. The Prime Minister we should have indicted, namely Morrison, is no longer there. So thanks for being with me, everybody, for those thoughts about politics here in Australia. I just want to say before I go, please, if you can, I'd like to think that you could subscribe, and it's not working, but subscribe to my YouTube channel, ring the bell for any further comments, for any further notifications. Let me know what you think. Have a chat with me. Take care, look after yourselves, and more importantly, above everything else, just make sure that you are safe. Bye.